This morning we have a special guest, Mr. Justin Flanbaum, Executive Director of the Lakewood Township MUA. He's here to give us some information about the meter change.
Over here.
Well, good morning, everybody. I want to thank you for inviting me here today, especially. I want to thank everybody for inviting me here this morning. Special thanks to Mrs. Holland for asking me to come in and discuss our meter replacement project, which most of you, if not all of you, are probably aware of. You've probably got notices in the mail. A lot of you have already scheduled appointments to have some of your meters changed out. So if you allow me a few minutes, I'll give you a brief background of the MUA in general, and then I'll give you a brief description of our meter replacement program that we're doing throughout town. The MUA was created in 1971, and we assumed the infrastructure from Bob Schmertz, who was the builder of the original Leisure Village and the Leisure Village East, and your communities were our first customers. From there, we expanded east and west up and down Route 70 and north up New Hampshire Avenue to Route 88 and the Lanesville Road areas, the Raintree areas, the Woodlake Manor areas, and we are a developer expanded system, meaning that the authority does not spend its own money in expanding its water or sewer systems. We have a different model than the private utility model. Most people don't know that Lakewood actually has two water companies. Lakewood has the Lakewood Municipal Utilities Authority, which basically services the southeastern portion of town, and then most of town is actually serviced by New Jersey American Water Company. New Jersey American Water Company is a private water company. They're actually a subsidiary of American Water Company, which is a subsidiary of a German water company. So water has actually become an international business, and the private utility model is a little bit different in that they actually take their money, and as it's America and they're allowed to make more money, they actually expand their system looking for new customers. We don't do that. So the way our system is expanded is that if you're a builder or a developer or a business person and you want to and you need the water and sewer facility, we actually work with you, and you would actually spend the money to expand the system. And that's one of the ways that we keep the rates down. If you live, as I did, in a portion of town where you get serviced by New Jersey American Water Company, the bills are actually 40 to 60% more, depending on your meter size and what type of facility you are, than if you live under our service area. So again, that's one of the ways that we keep the rates down. So when we started in 1971, we had about 4,800 accounts. By 1980, we had about 5,500 accounts, and now today we're close to 9,000 accounts. So as you grow, you have to look at your existing business model, and you have to come up with ways to improve on your business model. The way our billing system works currently is that you all receive a quarterly bill. So once every 3 months, you receive a bill from the MUA. However, we have several different cycles, so it turns out that every month we're sending out anywhere between 500 and 800 invoices. The way it worked up until now is that we had a meter reader that went out at the end of the month, at the end of every month, and would read meters, and would read anywhere from 500 to 800 meters a month, and he wrote them down in a book. So he would look at your meter, he would write down where it was, what the numbers were. He would then go back to the office, give it to the billing clerk, and the billing clerk would spend close to a week manually inputting into the billing system every single read. So when you have 200 accounts or 300 accounts that you're doing this for on a monthly basis, it's not that time consuming. But as you can imagine, when you have anywhere between 500 and 800 invoices that you're sending out a month, it becomes a process that's extremely cumbersome, and it can become very inefficient. What happens is, like, if you have a winter like we had, not this past this past year we didn't have a winter, but the winter before that, where there was snow on the ground for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time, you probably noticed that you didn't get your bills the bills were late because we couldn't physically go around to read the meters. So by the time we were able to read them and come back to the office, some people's bills went out 5 weeks late, 6 weeks late. So we're trying to make the operation more efficient and to improve the operation. So there are really several issues with our old system. Number one, it's subject to human error. I don't care how good you are, but when you're going out reading 800 or 900 meters a month, I mean, your eyes start to blur after a while when you read the numbers. It's extremely time-consuming. It would take a guy anywhere from 2 to 4 days to read the meters. In a place like the industrial park, sometimes it takes up to an hour to read 1 meter because today with all the security, you have to wait in the lobby, you have to be cleared, they have to take you into the building. So it becomes a process that's extremely time-consuming. Also, it's subject to human error. You read the guy that goes out to read the meters. He's got to make sure that the numbers are correct. The billing clerk in the office to input all the reads into the system. I mean, it could become extremely cumbersome. Also, many of the bills have to be estimated. If your gate's locked or we can't get into the house, sometimes bills are estimated for quarters at a time. Sometimes it can go a whole year with an estimated bill. Then all of a sudden, a year later, you get hit with a $600 bill because we had to charge you for the time that we couldn't access the meter. The new system's going to have a lot of benefits. First, there's no more human error. What happens is that all the reads are transmitted by an antenna, which we installed on top of our water tower, which we have at New Hampshire Avenue at our headquarters, and they're transmitted from the meter to the antenna directly into our billing system. So there's absolutely no possibility there for human error. Your bill is an actual read. Another benefit is that the meters are going to be read by the gallon in real time. So, for example, if a customer, if you'd receive a bill that normally you use 6,000 gallons, and all of a sudden 1 quarter you get a bill and it's 20,000 gallons. What we could do is we could actually go back and we can see how much your usage was by the hour on any given day, on any given month. So, for example, and Mrs. Holland knows this firsthand. Actually, she had a bill, and she used something like 36,000 gallons for the quarter, and she usually uses 7,000 or 8,000 gallons for the quarter. Now, if you have a system like we had in the past, it's tough really to say where the mistake was because what happened? Was the meter broken? Did the guy write down the wrong number? It's tough really to help a customer out. But Mrs. Holland came in and said, look, guys, it's impossible that I use so much water. And what we did was we actually installed one of these meters in her house, and we said, look, Mrs. Holland, don't worry about the bill. Give us 2 weeks, and we'll tell you if you're using water, and when you're using the water. And we looked, and we saw there was no usage. So in a situation like that, you can't just, dig your heels in the sand and say, well, too bad. It must have been a mistake. So she was actually credited for the excess water that we charged her for. Another example, we have a customer on Route 70. There's a Best Western hotel on Route 70, which has a restaurant, which they sublease space to, called the Vanity Fair. And business is tough today, and people were actually looking at their water bills, whereas a few years ago most people did it. But I got a call from the owner of the Vanity Fair, and he said, "Look, Justin," he goes, "I'm getting bills for $8,000 to $10,000 a quarter." For hundreds of thousands of gallons of water, where normally in the past there would be 2,000 or 3,000 gallons a quarter. And what I said to him was, I think his name was Rich. I said, Rich, we're going to install one of these new meters in your business, and give me 2 weeks. Same thing I said to Mrs. Holland. I said, give me 2 weeks. Call me back in 2 weeks, and we'll see. When you're using the water. And we didn't know. He said maybe I'm hooked into the hotel somehow, or maybe he says maybe you guys are making big mistakes. I said, look, give us 2 weeks, and we'll find out. He called me 2 weeks later. And I pulled up the chart. And I said, look, I said, Rich, I said, on Monday night at 2 o'clock in the morning, I said, you used 250 gallons from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning. I said, are you there Monday nights? He goes, Justin, he goes, I'm lucky if I have a party once a week these days on Friday. As it turned out, he had a massive leak in one of his commercial refrigerator units. Now, unfortunately, in that case, you can't credit, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars of usage. And unfortunately, we couldn't credit him, but what we did was we waived the interest on it. And I said, look, we waived the interest. Pay us whenever you can. I'm not going to We're not going to turn your water off or anything like that. So, but that's a great benefit. The customer service is just enhanced exponentially because of the system. Also, there's no estimated bills anymore. There's no concerns for inclement weather or anything like that. We press the button, and the reads come in. The meters are also tamper-proof. So what happens is that if somebody, and sometimes, unfortunately, it happens, people want to mess around with their meters or turn them backwards or whatever it is, a little alert comes up on the screen, and it'll say, Mrs. Holland tries to turn her meter around, and we'll know. Then we'll go right to Mrs. Holland's house. So that's also a big benefit. It happens. It happens sometimes. Also, a big concern of ours is a safety concern for our own staff, and also safety and security concerns for all our customers. And there's no more meter readers. Nobody's snooping around in your backyard. Nobody has to come to your house. Only in the event of maintenance. But otherwise, you don't have to worry about that either. There's absolutely no need for that anymore. We just press the button, and the reads come in. And then a long-term benefit. These are all immediate benefits. A great long-term benefit is that it ultimately saves the authority money, because we don't need meter readers anymore. Without this system, we'd probably have to, just because of how our system has grown, we'd probably have to hire 2 more guys just to read meters. And you have salaries, you have other benefits that you have to pay the employees, and all that's going to go away. So that's also a long-term benefit for the authority. It's a cost-saving benefit. So by now you probably, I hope you got my initial notice that I sent out, and then you'll be getting, or you've already gotten, at least your first notice from a company called Inline Metering Services. We put the work out to public bid, and Inline was the cheapest price, and 99.5% of the time, unless you have a really good reason, you go with the cheapest price. They're a reputable company. They've been doing this for at least, I think, a decade. They did meter replacements for Jackson most recently. They did, I think, 3,000 last year for them for the Jackson MUA, maybe 2,500 the year before that. So they're a reliable company. They're reputable. All the employees, the staff of Inline that comes to your house, they're uniformed. They're supposed to have IDs, name tags. The vehicles are supposed to have the company name on them, the Inline Metering Services name. So if somebody comes to your house, or if you see a car pull up and they claim to be, a guy coming in to do work on your meter, don't let him in. But the Lakewood Police Department has been notified of our project, so they're fully aware of the fact that there's going to be this company going, throughout town and into people's homes and changing meters. They're aware of that. But we hope to have the entire project done by September. So we're replacing about 6,500 meters this time around. We have total about 9,000 meters, but we're doing about 6,500 now. And we did a test run with the first 140 meters throughout town, some of the industrial parks, some here, some in Raintree, and the system is just so far working phenomenally. So, of course, there's going to be some hurdles that we have to jump over through the installation process. 6,500 meters is not a small feat, and just the schedule. I mean, 6,500 meters is really a feat into itself. But again, we hope the whole project is going to be done in September. And if anybody has any problems or any questions, you could always call the office. You could speak to any one of the customer services representatives. We have 5 women in the office, and everybody in the office is aware of the project. You could always come into the office if you have any questions. You can call me, and I hope the process goes smoothly, and I hope it sheds a little light on what we're doing. So thank you again for inviting me here. Thank you, Mrs. Holland. Purification? When you say purification? Mrs. Holland asked me to comment for a moment on just the quality of our water in general. Every year, everybody's issued what's called a Consumer Confidence Report. The Consumer Confidence Report is mandated by the state of New Jersey, by the Department of Environmental Protection. There's a hierarchy of organizations which oversee and mandate the quality of any given water system. So there's the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. They're like, at the top of the pyramid. They're the federal agency. They mandate to the state agencies what they want to see as far as water quality. The state then, each state has their own things that they also want to see. So the DEP mandates to every water distributor, public or private, whether you're New Jersey American Water Company or the Lakewood Municipal Utilities Authority, they mandate what's called, they have different contaminants, potential contaminants that could be in any given water supply. And most of these things are natural. They're in the earth where you draw the water from, so you really can't do about it. And they have guidelines, what they call maximum contaminant level. So these things are parts per billion, parts per trillion, and fortunately, we have, in our water system, we've had nothing that's even come close to any of the maximum contaminant levels. So, for example, if you have a maximum contaminant level on MTBE of 60, we've had 8, 9, even if you're at that level of what they consider a maximum contaminant level, it doesn't necessarily even mean that the water, if you drink it, something's going to happen to you. In other words, but that's the level where they know for sure, if it got to that level, that nothing will happen to you. And they probably know even if it got beyond that level, nothing will happen to you. But again, these things are mandated. It's the DEP has we send out monthly reports to the DEP, quarterly reports, not just about water quality, about the amount of water that we've drawn from our different sources. And believe me, they're on top of the situation, and we have to abide by it. We have to abide by it, and we do abide by it. We want to abide. We don't want to put out water that is potentially hazardous. I personally drink the water in the office, which so I kind of practice what I preach. When I was with New Jersey American Water Company, I only drank Poland Spring, but don't tell them that. But in the office, I drink the water, honestly. So, and everybody does. And the Consumer Confidence Report is available on our website at any time. You can go to lakewoodmua.com. We also have links to the State Department of Environmental Protection's website. On our website, we have links to the EPA website. So there's really a lot of information that you could get just by going onto our website and following the different links. If you can, you could always come to the office. We can give you a Consumer Confidence Report. This year's report is going to be mailed by June. So you'll get the report from 2011, the water quality report, and everything is way above and beyond as far as quality goes what the state mandates. So we're fortunate, we're happy about it, and we're proud of it. Everybody really works hard to ensure that the water that we put out is safe. So if anybody has any questions. Yes. So the question was, are you still going to get quarterly bills? The answer is yes. You're only going to get quarterly bills. Some authorities or utility companies, because of cash flow needs, they bill every month. Like I told you, we do bill quarterly, but we're on several different cycles, so we do receive revenues every month. So yet you'll still be receiving only a quarterly bill.
Okay, I'm a one-person home. I get quarterly bills, and every quarter it's the same amount of money. How does that work when you don't use that much water, being one person?
That's a good question, and as you can imagine, we probably get that question about 10 or 15 times a day. And I'm not saying that it's a joke. I'm saying that it's a good question. Here's the way our rate structure works. There are different models that utility companies go by as far as how they're going to work their rate structure. For example, the private utility companies, they factor what's called a vacancy rate. So in other words, if you go away, many people here go away in the winter. They're not here in the winter months. So you're home and you get the same bill every quarter. Some people get billed and they're not even there. So many companies, mostly private companies, factor what's called a vacancy rate. So they figure, there's probably a ratio. And I'm just going to give you, a very, very rough example. If you have 10,000 customers, you can assume at any given moment 1,000 units are vacant. I'll just give you an example. And therefore, what they do is they say, okay, we're not going to receive that revenue that we need to maintain and operate the system. So therefore, we're going to pass that loss of revenue on to everybody else. What we do is a little bit different. We're not a profit-making company. At the end of the year, we make sure that we have money left over, because that's prudent business, you have to make sure you have money left over, not so, shareholders can get extra money or anything like that. The reason to have money left over is because if you have, for example, a well that goes down, we have well number 2 here down Buckingham Drive. It went down on us a year and a half ago. The thing basically blew up. We walked in one morning and there was just mud all over the inside of the well house. It cost us $350,000 to fix the well. Now, without the well, there's no water. So you need the money in order to just for regular maintenance and operations, and also for emergencies when things like that happen. Therefore, what we do is we figure, okay, we need a minimum amount of revenue to maintain and operate the system, to have a comfortable cushion, so if the well goes down, we can fix it. Or if there's, and we haven't had any over the last few years, but if there's a major water main break. We had a break in the industrial park in September in 2011. We spent $27,000 overnight fixing the water, just fixing the main break. So we need a minimum amount of revenue just to operate and maintain the system. So what we do is we spread it out. We say, okay, if you have a 5/8 inch meter like all you have here, the minimum amount of water, the minimum amount of revenue that we need from the water is now, I think it's $42.20 per quarter per customer. And then the sewage, we don't treat sewage. The water we actually bring up from the ground ourselves, and we treat it and we distribute it. The sewage, we're basically a collection agency, and we send it to the Ocean County Utilities Authority. And sewage is a much more expensive process as far as treatment goes than water, and they also need to treat the sewage. So they charge us, meaning the Lakewood MUA, to treat the sewage, and we pass that cost along with also a comfortable cushion left over just for regular operations and maintenance. But sewage is basically a pass-through from us to the customer so that we could pay the Ocean County Utilities Authority. But the water is really the crux of our system, and we need adequate funds left over for maintenance and operations and also for emergencies. And that's why we choose the model of what we call a minimum consumption fee, as opposed to, just in the villages alone, there's got to be hundreds and hundreds of vacant units, besides for the people that go away for the winter season. And so what we do is we distribute it evenly, as opposed to saying, okay, there's going to be 500-600 vacant units, therefore when you're home, the bill's going to be much higher. So I could say with somewhat certainty that should we choose the other model and just not charge if you're not using the water, when you do use the water, it'll be a lot higher. And it'll actually prove to be higher than our current rate model. So that's basically the answer to the question. But also remember, the service is there. God forbid there's a fire. God forbid of an emergency. The water's still there. The water never gets turned off. It's always right there in front of your house for use. That's really a secondary reason. But the main reason is because we need the revenue in order to just operate the system.
Okay. Now, with this new antenna deal, will our rates go down? Will our water bill be the same? How do we know for sure? Will it be the same every quarter, or just for your usage?
I think your question really is how will the additional how does this project affect your water rate? In addition to this project, we're undergoing about $20 million worth of capital improvements, and this project is a $2.5 million project. And aside from that, we're doing about another $17.5 million of capital improvements. We have an infrastructure which is old. Most of it was built in the 60s and 70s. For example, we had a water tower. It's on the corner of Airport Road and Oak Street in the industrial park that was built in the early 70s. You can't just leave it alone. Water towers, and I'm just giving you one example, water towers need to be maintained. They need to be repainted, the inside and outside. They're a big project. Back in those days, they used lead paint. When we took a look at the cost of repainting the tower, it was only a little bit less than knocking it down and building a new tower, only because of the way that you have to remove the lead paint. You have to cover the entire thing, right? And then you have to remove it. It's really a rough process. So what we did was, for not too much more money, we built a new tank. That tank was $1.7 million, and I'm giving you one example. And that tank, water tanks can last 50 years. They can last 100 years. And of course, as long as they're maintained regularly and taken care of, which we do take care of them. So that's one project that we had to undertake. Had we not done that, if a water tank fails or whatever it is, you're going to be spending a lot more money in the event of an emergency than if you plan ahead. We're expanding our treatment facility. We have two treatment facilities. We have a facility on Shorock Street, which is our main treatment facility, and then we have a facility on New Hampshire Avenue. We're expanding the treatment facility. We had to, because right now, like I said, we initially started with 4,800 customers. We have close to 9,000 customers. Our service area, the town is growing, and our service area is also growing. And when we won't put money into extending the infrastructure, and we get questioned this all the time by developers. Can't you give us any money to? And we say no, we can't give you any money because then we have to pass that cost along to your customers when you're gone. But what we do have to do is make sure there's enough water. So we have to expand the treatment facility. That's a $10 million project that we're undergoing right now. We've obtained loans from something called the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust. The loans that we obtained for the bulk of the project are 20-year loans. 56% of the money is half market rate interest. 44% is 0% interest. Our latest loan that we obtained is 75% 0% interest and 25% half market rate. So the state, through the infrastructure trust, is basically throwing free money at you. And they're saying, look, we recognize that most of the water and sewer infrastructures in the state are old, they're aging, and they need to be upgraded. And really, it's throughout the country. The president had an initiative called the American Recovery and the American Recovery Act, recognizing that infrastructure is old, and unfortunately, you have to repair it. So we did have, because of the projects that we've undertaken, we have had some rate increases over the last few years. This year, in February, we had a 5% rate increase on the water and a 5% on the sewer. The sewer, part of that was the pass-through through the Ocean County Utilities Authority, and part of it was because of the projects we've undertaken. What does that mean, 5%? Percentages, I always say, don't really mean much. But how much more am I paying? That's what I want to know. You say 5%, 30%. I don't care what the percentage is. How much more are you paying? For someone like you, who is a minimum consumption customer, you'd pay $5.70 more per quarter. So that's about, if you receive the monthly bill, it'd be $1.90 more a month. But it's $5.70 per quarter. I don't discount a penny, because a dollar increase is a dollar increase, and $5 a quarter, you could say, well, what's $5 a quarter? Well, $5 a quarter, So we have tried not to to minimize the impact on the ratepayer, on the customers. But unfortunately, with an old infrastructure, you have to improve. You can't keep, it's like a car. You can't drive the same car for 50 years. It just it'll break. It'll stop moving. The infrastructure is the same way. A lot of people don't see it like that. I didn't see it like that really before I started doing this. But it's the same thing like a car. You can't drive the same car for 50 years. It just doesn't work. So.
Okay, now I have already made the appointment for my home for May 3rd. After they come and they do that, when will I see the first change in my bill, or will it be changed, or it might be the same as I get quarterly?
Your cycle will continue to be the same. You'll get the bills as you get them now.
Right, but I mean, will the amount be changed because they're doing it a different way, and I might be using less? Or?
The amount's going to stay the same.
Okay.
The benefit is that if you do have a time where you see additional consumption or you think you're being charged too much, now we can check. Now we can see exactly how much you're using. It helps people. Sometimes you have a leak you don't know about. So,
it'll come to our attention if we do.
Right. Yeah, it will. So.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I'd like to ask a question because I moved in approximately 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. And at that time, my yearly bill was like $100 a quarter. I called and I was told, because I'm an individual, that the minimum was 5,000 gallons per quarter. Well, when I get a raise, I call up, ask why. My June bill for 2010 went up 11%. My June bill for 2010 For 2011, the June bill went up 15%. The sewer went up in March of this year, and I was made to understand that with the June bill this year, the water too would be going up. Now, is this in view of everything that has to be done, and I'm aware of it, how much is our water going to be going up this year? Is it 11? Is it 15? Is it 25? Because my bills have gone up for the year from 400 to 476 in 2 years.
That sounds along the lines of what our increases have been over the last couple of years because of what I just explained. What we did was in February, as of February 1st of this year, the sewer went up 5%,
Yes.
which is $2 a quarter,
Yes.
and the water also went up 5%, which is like I just said, which was it was $3.70 a quarter. So in June, you will see a slight increase on the water. And again, the total increase that we adopted February 1st was $3.70 per quarter, and that's because of what I just explained. You know, you have to improve the system, you have to maintain it, and you have to build new infrastructure. But that sounds like the increases along the lines of the increases that we had the last couple of years.
Yes.
And the minimum per quarter, I just want to say, is I think 10,000 gallons a quarter.
Now,
You're actually
10?
Yeah, you're actually allowed to use,
It
for
used
that
to be
price,
5.
you could use up to 10,000 gallons per quarter.
When can we expect to see our bills kind of level off?
We,
I know you have to buy these systems, et cetera, et cetera.
We've, for many years, we had no increases. Our first big increase that we had was a couple of years ago. For many years, we had no increases. But when we saw the need, you have to look down the road. And when we looked down the road and we saw the need to expand when we saw it was necessary to either replace or expand or build new infrastructure, we did. And instead of coming down the road in 10 years and saying, hey, guess what, everybody, we just did $20 million worth of work and now your bill's going to go up 75%, we're trying to do it in a way where it goes up, where we've raised it in small increments over the last couple of years so as to kind of ease the burden on everybody. So we try to do it in a way where it's smaller increments. When can we see it leveling out? What we do is we every year we look at the next 5 years, and what we see is we see an increase right now. And I like to be straightforward. I don't like to. What we see now is if we have a summer like we had last summer, where if you remember, in the beginning of the summer it didn't rain, right? But the lawns were green all summer because we had so much snow in the winter. Most people didn't even turn on their sprinklers in the summer. And then August was just like a hurricane the entire month. So being a utility company, you could have a bad year also. And we had a bad year because we didn't have the irrigation wasn't turned on and so forth. But if we have another year like last year, for example, we plan on, in November, having another small increase, water and sewer, 3% on the water, 1.5% on the sewer. And again, I don't like percentages. I like real numbers. 1.5% on the sewer is probably close to $1 a quarter in an increase, and 3% on the water is probably $2.75 plus or minus per quarter. So now that's not written in stone, but in order to meet our bond covenants, because I just told you about the loans that we've taken, principal payments start on one of our loans this month. So again, prudent business practice is to make sure that you're going to have enough money to start paying principal and interest, which we have to repay to the state for the next 20 years. So we've already projected, well, worst case, this is how much more we're going to need. And that we've done already. Hopefully we won't have to, but we might.
So that'll be like $10 within this year, January to December.
When you combine water and sewer, if we have to do if we have to do a rate increase in November, you'd be looking at close to $10, maybe $8, $9, something like that. Yeah. Any other questions? We draw. New Jersey draws basically all the water drawn from the earth in New Jersey is basically drawn from 3 different aquifers. You have the Raritan Aquifer, which is the deepest aquifer, and then you have the Cohansey and the Englishtown aquifers. We draw from all three. So obviously, our biggest producing wells are the wells that are deeper in the ground, which we draw from the Raritan aquifers. We actually just drilled a new well on New Hampshire Avenue, which is probably about 1,700 feet deep and could produce about 1.5 million gallons per day. So we just drilled that. So the answer to your question is that we drill from all three of those aquifers. And basically the whole state does. Very little of our water comes from surface water. The vast majority comes from groundwater drawn from one of those three aquifers. If you know he could, if he asked the question, I'll repeat the question from the mic so he doesn't. His question was there a problem years ago of pollution in the Pinelands or in different locations, and a potential of contamination to the aquifers? So the answer is yes. I mean, there's always there have been problems in the past, especially over the last 20 to 25 years. The DEP has been very, very strict on what you can and what you can't do in certain locations. Fortunately, we now recognize certain areas which have to be protected, which have to be maintained. But that's really a new phenomenon. That's really only over the last 2-3 decades. So yes, in the past there have been instances where, for example, in Toms River with Ciba-Geigy or in different areas where there have been potential contaminants or contamination to the water source. Fortunately, here in Lakewood, and I could say this because we do monitor our water quality regularly, and like I said before, we send out monthly reports to the DEP, quarterly reports to the DEP. We issue a yearly consumer confidence report, and we know exactly what's in our water, and you could see what's in the water through the consumer confidence report. It's all transparent. There's nothing hidden, and you could see exactly what the water quality is. So the answer is that fortunately we haven't seen any contamination to our water supply, either from Ciba-Geigy or from what you could see. And if you look at the consumer confidence report, if you can't go online and get one, you'll get mailed out the one for 2011 shortly. But if you want to look at it sooner, you could always come to the office. We can give you a copy. You'll see exactly what's in the water. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any contamination from any of these things that happened. And Ciba-Geigy was a long time ago. But fortunately, we haven't seen anything like that.
Who was to clear the area where the where the meter are?
If it's something that if it's a box that has to be moved out of the way,
I have my washing machine in that area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. If it's an area where something could just be moved over and the meter can be accessed.
No, this is you need somebody hefty.
Okay. Is it something that the association can help out with? If it's something that the installers could do, again, you have to, today everybody's worried about liability and all that stuff. If it's something that they could do, they'll do it. Meaning that if it's just a matter of shifting something over.
No, this is to take it out of the area.
Actually remove it.
Remove it.
So that's something that the installers are not qualified to do. They could do it, but they can't do it because.
Well, then they won't be able to do the job.
I can comment on that.
Sure.
Our service department has actually been in contact with Lakewood MUA, and we'll be coordinating on situations like that to help the residents out.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure because I know that we have been contacted in certain instances. Yeah, you helped out, but that's the answer.
Okay.
Thanks.
This would have to be the last question, Pat.
How large is this new meter going to be?
It's basically the same size as your old meter.
Well, then there's no problem at all.
Yeah, we've had phone calls, like Tom said, and there has been coordination. It's not any bigger. It's much lighter. It's actually easier to maneuver and stuff, but
It's not
it's
going to
not
be a problem.
yeah, hopefully it shouldn't. So.
Thank you, Mr. Flashbaum.
very
We
much.
appreciate your time and your information.
Thank you.